All right. I believe we are live. Let me know if you guys can hear me. But other than that, baseball is officially back. The pitchers and catchers have reported to Port St. Lucie for the New York Mets, the 2024 season. We're going to talk about everything that has been going on the past 48 hours. We'll have some discussions. We'll talk in the chat. For those of you in here, make sure to leave a like if you have not already. Subscribe if you have not. For content throughout all preseason, throughout all spring training, throughout the baseball season as well. Let's roll the intro. Let's get this thing going. Okay. So there is a strong possibility that one of my co-hosts will be joining me later on in this stream. So look out for that, obviously. But as for right now, we are looking at the Mets in their first week of camp. The last 48 hours, pitchers and catchers reported yesterday. And we saw the sights of pretty much everybody, the new additions. We saw some of the relievers, some of our starters. I believe pretty much every 40-man guy has arrived at spring training, pitchers and catchers. We've seen Alvarez, we've seen Narvaez, we've seen most of the catchers as well, because pitchers and catchers report. That's kind of how that works. But anyways, we saw some talk from David Stearns. We heard from him yesterday. Today we heard from Carlos Mendoza. I did not watch much of Carlos Mendoza's presser, mainly because the questions, and I'm sure that if you're on Twitter and you know this, most of the questions were terrible and they were pretty much embarrassing. The audio was not great. And pretty much all he has said is kind of reiterating a lot of what Stearns was talking about. Now, obviously, the main question, we all know that the first thing that he was going to be asked, no matter what, was going to be whether or not what the current condition is on the Pete Alonso contract discussions. We knew that was going to be the first thing that was going to be asked, and it was the first thing that was going to be asked. And I'd say that it's been 50-50 between a lot of Mets fans, where they understand the situation, and then there's a few that are kind of upset after what they heard. Now, I kind of want to talk some people off of that ledge a little bit as of right now. I'm not saying that Pete Alonso is guaranteed to stay with the Mets. I am not saying that. But what I am saying is you should have saw this coming. He was going to go to free agency no matter what. There was absolutely no way that you hire Scott Boras and say, this is the guy, or say, this is the guy that's representing me, and I'm not going to go to free agency. Every single Boras client is going to continue to go to free agency no matter what, whether they are retained by their current club or whether they go somewhere else to get a lot more money. He hired Scott Boras. He basically just cued off the Mets and said, I'm going to free agency. Nimmo did the same thing. We've had other Boras clients do that with the Mets. And that is how it's going to stay. Mets now have to trade him. They don't have to trade him. Again, that's another thing. The Mets do not have to trade Pete Alonso. I feel like there is going to be a little bit more. There's going to be a little bit more consideration to it. And I think that there's going to be a lot more consideration to it if the Mets are not in the race. And again, this is a wait and see for a lot of things going on in the organization. As for the prospects, as for some of the guys on one-year deals, as for some guys that are coming back from injury. And mostly, you can say that the biggest factor, of course, is Pete Alonso and what is going to be his future with the team. There seems to be motivation from both sides to get a deal done. It's just not going to get done when you expect it's going to get done. this is how Boris will continue to operate. This is how he's always been able to operate. He's going to fish the market. They are going to go on the free agent market. And the Mets, I believe, who are invested in keeping him long term, especially if he gets a good year out of him in 2024, they are going to pursue him and continue and try to keep him and retain him. All it takes is one stupid team to just, toss money out of the, out the fucking, but I can say that the confidence level at this current moment, it's high that he will remain a Met, but we're not going to get an answer until he goes to free agency and actually tests the market. If the season's not going anywhere in July, yeah, of course. That's what I mean. What's going on, Ibby? How you doing? Sanders Cancel. I don't know if I said that right, but the Mets should promote Drew Gilbert, Luis Angel Acuna, Kristen Scott, and Mike Vassell as soon as possible. They are going to be a part of the Mets core. The future is now. I mean, listen, I don't think that anybody, any prospect is part of the core as of right now. Like, if you are considered a prospect as of right now, they're not considered the core, but they are. They're going to they're going to be given a chance to prove that they can be an option going forward. And that's something that I think that is really going to be addressed a lot this season. Especially, they are going to give a lot of gateway for these players to get playing time. And that's something that I think that a lot of Mets fans have been asking for, maybe a little bit too late as compared to when they wanted it to happen. But as of right now, the Mets are doing what they should have done, I would say maybe 2 years ago, of giving a leash to some of the young players with kind of this lack of youth on the roster. And as of right now, you have an executive who has really been an advocate for that. And he's continued to say that over and over again, even though he'd love to leave his options open. He has said that they are going to give a lot of gateway. They're going to give a lot of breathing room to the prospects. He's going to allow the ups and downs. He's not going to lock them in a cage for 3 straight days if they have a bad game. Okay. My co-host is here. So, what's up, man? How you doing? We're talking about Pete Alonso. What do you think we're talking about with Pete Alonso?
That he has not showed up and he doesn't care while Lindor and Nimmo are here in camp. If that bastard's waiting until Monday.
Brett's not here either.
Well, I said stars.
Who isn't here? Who isn't here? I think Lindor's
Alonso, there, right? McNeil, I didn't see yet. Bader.
Again, the Rhino out of the cage? No.
Yeah, sadly not. I mean, yeah, again, it's only pitchers and catchers. But again, you see the captain's there. Nimmo's down there already. And Lindor's there too. So, again, who cares? I mean,
is Nimmo going to play any games?
Well, that's true. He's not going to play spring training games. He don't play those. He ain't got time for
that. But yeah, Pete Alonso has this. I mean, I personally listen. My whole thought process on this has really not changed since Stearns just said that, of saying, wow, it's the most possible outcome that he goes to free agency. I don't think it's really the most possible outcome. I think it's the outcome, like the only outcome. We knew that this was going to happen when he hired Scott Boras. And I think that, there is a strong possibility with the financial flexibility that you do have long-term, obviously, with a lot of short contracts on the books right now. But I think that it's already been it was established for a long time. They had their chance to extend Pete Alonso years ago. They had their chance once he got to this stage of late arbitration. Once we had these whole situations of his arbitration hearing, going to separate stages or whatever. At that point, we knew that he was going to go to free agency. Then he hires Scott Boras, and that just makes it completely clear. I personally just want to see the Mets make progress on an extension this year. And that's all I want to just see where the numbers are at. I want to see them discuss something, obviously. It doesn't seem like they have. I'm sure there's going to be some discussions during spring, but they're not going to get very far. We already know where Boris's head's at right now with how he's going to approach the market with Pete Alonso. We know what the numbers are as of right now. But it's been seen as a wait and see year, and it lines up perfectly as of right now to what they're going to do with Alonso, what they're going to do with some of these prospects, what they're going to do with some of these 1-year deals. There's going to be a few, checkpoints as of right now with this whole, there's going to be the trade deadline. There's going to be, there's going to be the offseason. There's going to be free agency. There's going to be some checkpoints as to where they check into this wait and see year, which is kind of how it's just been set up as of right now. So, I mean, what do you think about, has anything changed? Has anything changed of how you feel about the whole situation with Alonso? Because I understand it's very fragile with Mets fans, but has it changed at all with you? Like, for me, it hasn't.
Again, I've been negative Rhino about this, that he was always going to test 2 years ago when we talked about it. Every situation, even before he hired Boris, they were never getting a deal done. And as soon as the Boris aspect of this came in, that put the death and dropped the tombstone on any opportunity. And I get Boris is has said some stuff at the winter meetings of hey, we're not hibernating or whatever stupid ass joke he decided to make about contract extensions with Alonso. But unless you're giving him his type of deal, he was never going to extend. At least now you're going to have to deal with the Nimmo thing. And again, is it a risk? Of course. I think it's a risk on both sides. Alonso's had a great career, but again, pop your ACL out, boom. Rhys Hoskins, I'm not saying same caliber, but again, spring training goes pops the UCL. You're costing yourself a little bit of money, and especially if you're so determined to stay in New York, because his best friend says, "Oh, he can't wait he loves being here." So again, it has not changed my opinion on anything of this Alonso extension talks, and the fact that Stearns keeps talking about it could be again, he's going to continue to be asked, but we kind of knew as soon as Boris was in, all right, we'll see you in October or November, whenever free agency decides to start. But hey, maybe this time next year, Alonso still won't be signed because all of Boris's guys are just still not signed now. So this will be a whole year full of just this topic. But again, nothing has changed from my part. Again, and this is I think as somebody said in the chat, if this team is ass, or at least honestly how I feel, ship his ass. There should be no if this team is ass, ship his ass out of the deadline and say, hey, Pete, we love you. We're not going anywhere this year. We're not trying to be Shohei Ohtani and let our face of our franchise walk for a draft pick. What team would that be? Would Baltimore do it? Maybe. But, if somebody comes to you at the deadline and says, hey, here's a Drew level, again, let's say a Verlander type package. Here's our number, superstar top prospect, and throw another guy in. You got to make that trade. The Christopher Morel thing, fine. I mean, again, Mets fans going nuts, but again, a year of a polar bear compared to if he was termed. No, I don't love it. Cade Horton is I'm always for adding pitching prospects, but again, the Cubs are always going to be hanging around there. But again, I would hope to throw Baltimore again if Baltimore's contention and their farms. I don't like Ryan Mountcastle, but you could move him other places.
Listen, it's not a thought. It's not a thought for me right now. It really isn't. I as of right now, I'm just waiting to see. Morel cannot be the centerpiece. Yeah, I'm almost 99% certain that I would not take that. When the trade deadline hits, I think that it's going to be something that is going to be strongly considered if this team is not competing. Do I think that the Mets are going to exceed the expectations that they have as of right now? Yes, but I don't know what the certain level is going to be. I still need to see the product on the field, of course. But I think that right now, you just have to let it play out. Just watch. Just sit back and watch. And right now, you're starting off with a little little small sample of baseball. It doesn't count for a month. You're just watching and chilling. That's all you're seeing. And we'll start to do the process of elimination. And that is how you're going to look at it. I think that that's what the Mets need to do. And that's what they're doing. That's what they have established that they are doing. It's wait and see what is going to happen. They have tons of different points of where they can pivot to. If They have tons of, I don't know. They have tons of different points that they can pivot to if it goes south or if it goes north. So I'm okay with the current situation right now. But all I can say is it's going to be, how do I say this without, it's going
to be
to
Freddie
be,
Freeman in Atlanta. Just say it like
it's
that.
going to be nerve-wracking. It's going to be nerve-wracking. Let's just say that. Like, it's just going to continue to be nerve-wracking. And I don't really expect anything else from a Mets story. I just don't. But I can say right now that the Alonso situation, it's in a good point right now of what we've heard. It's in a good stage. There's been interest from both sides. I don't know how much of it has just been Boris leaks. I don't know how much of it has just been just smoke and mirrors or whatever. But when you look at it right now, the Mets are in the position to keep him long term. But again, that could change come July. It could change. But I think that this is a one day at a time. This is a wait and see. That's how they're looking at it this year. Pete will never wear another uniform other than the Mets. Boy, I hope that is the situation. I hope it is. I hope that is the case. But again, I think that you got to take a deep breath as what Matt Ibby Ibanez from Till Mets Do Us Part. Shout out to him. He's got a
Stop
podcast.
telling me I'll never relax. Come on.
Just relax. Just relax. I think I said this last year. You're on a beach in Port St. Lucie right now. Just relax. All right. That's how we're looking at it. It's the first week of spring training. We haven't even had the full workout yet. Okay. I don't even think Mr. Met has arrived in Port St. Lucie. Like, we are in a young part of spring training right now. Okay. Let's just relax. Another thing that Stearns talked about, which I want to direct to, Starling Marte. Now, we all know that he is the biggest question mark, I would say, out of all the position players, because we do have a lot of pieces in the rotation. We have a few that have a lot that have a lot to prove this year in that pitching rotation, which is going to be something that we're going to look out for, of course, with David Stearns being the pitching guy that he is. But as for Starling Marte, he played Dominican Winter League. He played for I don't know if he played the entire thing, but it looked like Mets scouts were there. Stearns got to see him live. He said that he looks healthy. He looks ready to go. The only thing that I can take away from him saying that is, yes, he's healthy, but how healthy? Like, I want to know, because this is just me coming from precaution, of course. I think that from the last two springs, or the views of the last two springs with Starling Marte, where there has been injury concern right off the bat, I need a little bit more detail than he is healthy. Like, yes, okay, he was moving around fine. He was doing this, but I do need a little bit more than that. And I was expecting him to establish a little bit more than that. But they also did captivate the whole situation where they have a lot of options for center field. They have a lot of options for right field. They have some young players as well. They mentioned, was it Mendoza who mentioned Tyrone Taylor, Harrison Bader, of course they have. I don't know if they mentioned Trace Thompson. I don't know if he's there, but he's possibly an option. So I think that there still is going to be concern throughout the year. Not mainly because of his production. I think it's just, is he actually going to be able to stay on the field? And I think that that's going to be the main focus as to Marte, who, he's coming into a 35-year-old season. We've talked about this before, and there is going to be concern from a lot of different aspects. His performance, his ability, his just ability overall to stay healthy, and, what value is he actually going to provide? Because let's not forget, if the Mets aren't competitive, we were talking about Pete Alonso. If the Mets aren't competitive and Marte is having a great bounce back season, that might be another guy that could be on the trade market. So I think that if you are looking at it going forward, I mean, I would love to get rid of the Marte contract, but if you're looking at it going forward, I think that we are going to be very cautious of Starling Marte throughout the entire season. I think that with him, something can change in an instant. And that's what kind of scares the crap out of me with an outfielder that you're paying $20 million for the next 2 years. So Starling Marte, what do you think about that? I mean, I don't know how to feel after hearing that he's just healthy. I don't know. I don't know how to feel with that, to be honest. I feel like I'm not getting enough.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've said it on our pod all the times. Like, my expectations for him is the bare minimum, and any results I get are, a bonus. The fact that I mean, yes, he's saying GM talk, being like, oh, he's healthy, and we'll see, how many games he just decides to play in spring. But is he a tradable piece? If he has he would have to go back to like his 20 All-Star form to even if you maybe you eat some money, but again, we're eating more money in that sense. But like we said originally when the deal was signed, year 1 and 2, we thought we were getting a productive player. He's back 2 years. We're like, oh shit, this is where it's gonna go, and we're in year 3. So, I mean, he can't get. Well, I say this, he can't get worse than what he was. What he was for us for whatever he played last year. So, you could look at that like, hey, even if he's, 30, 40% better, you take that. But I will give Stearns a little bit of credit. Like, now it is a deeper, like, again, I hate the term that, like, oh, he has brought in some decent depth. So if that injury, which we all know it's coming, and like, we can't be living in, he's going to play 140 games. No, he's not. We'll be lucky to get 190, like, at best. So if Pete and he has done a good enough job being like, okay, here's Taylor, here's you have Stewart still on the roster, Bader, Nimmo, obviously waiting on Drew. So there is some depth that when that eventual injury happens, we're in a lot better spot. But from specifically Marte, again, I've said it, you've said it, I'm not expecting much. And if I get a part of what he was in 2022, it's a bonus. But I'm not going to sit here and be like, I'm trusting Starling Marte, 115 games. He's going to get back to that, close to 290 batting average. He's going to steal 36. I'm not saying that. Like, I'm just, if he gives me some production, I'll take it. And again, if he does struggle, you do have, again, banking on it, which we don't love banking on the prospects, but again, it opens the door for Drew. So again, I've said it, I'm not having this, all-star Marte. If he gets any production, sure. And if he builds that up and say, hey, he has a great first half and there's a team interested, it's more asset management. You can flip him out of here, and even if it's just 2 mid prospects, like 2 mid-tier guys, continue to build this build the farm for future trades for 2025, 2026 when this team's back to being an elite team and there's future money off the books. So again, me and Marte, when Stearns saying it, he's just basic GM talk. Let's see when he actually gets down there and how he actually looks before we all just jump the gun.
Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't really as impressed from what I was seeing from Dominican Winter League. I just, I'm not saying he's a shell of himself, but I just like whatever was being displayed. And again, it's just like, little Twitter highlights and everything, but whatever was being displayed overall, I was like, yeah, okay, this is probably the player that he is going to be. But again, we got to see him perform. We have not seen him fully ramped up yet for spring. But he is 99 times out of 100. If you were to say who the Mets starting right fielder is on opening day, it's going to be Starling Marte. And I think that, yes, there are options behind him if he does struggle. I don't know how long the leash is going to be. I think it's going to be a lot longer than people want. If he is struggling, I feel like he's going to be in the lineup a little bit longer than you want, mainly just because of the contract. If he wasn't here, if that contract was not here, it would be a whole different story. We've seen the Mets eat this type of money before. We've seen them do it with Robinson Cano, where it's partially in the second to last season, and then the next season they're paying them just to not even be here. We've seen that happen before. Hopefully, we don't have a situation where we have to do that. And listen, I think that Starling Marte, in his prime, he was a great player. But at the trajectory that we are going, you can't really guarantee that he is going to just completely bounce back to the player that he was in 2022. Let alone, you can't really guarantee that maybe you can't really guarantee that he comes back, and is better than 2023. Like, I think that there's so much riding on what's going on with Starling Marte that hopefully they have the flexibility to pivot and, cut the cord if they need to. But again, it's way too early. We still need to see him play. But I think that if you have, bottom third of the order type of production from Starling Marte, that is good enough. I'm hoping that he is in the bottom third of the lineup. I do not want to see him batting second. But I'm confused as to what the leash is. I'm confused as to what the current status is. I needed a little bit more from that one, and it was just weird. But as for the other injuries, I'm sure some Mets fans have come all over Twitter, and then we'll go into the chat for a second. As for the other injuries, Kyle Crick, who was signed on a minor league deal and a non-roster invite, he could miss all of camp, possibly most of it, with a calf strain. He was one piece that I think that, some people wanted to look at. Maybe he was like a fringe eighth arm in the bullpen, seventh arm in the bullpen, possibly. And then, of course, the Mets signing Ben Gamel, a former piece to like that. What was that? That outfield conglomerate of guys who David Stearns had in Milwaukee. He's 31 years old, came off of a year in Pittsburgh, I believe. Yeah, I like Marte, but yeah, he's not the same player. Yeah, exactly. So let's just go to the chat for a second. Do you think that we pick up a DH this late? I don't think anybody's going to like my answer. No, I don't think that they do.
We spent our $10 million already. We're done.
It's not even the fact of that. I think that they've pretty much established that they believe that Mark Vientos could slide into that role. I'm not really the biggest fan of just giving a prospect the reins, but they should have given him more playing time last year, so I'm glad that they're finally doing it. But I don't think that they pick up a DH. I think the most likely one, if they did it, was Justin Turner. Justin Turner's off the board now, so it just wasn't going to happen, in my opinion. It's going to be an active trade deadline for the Mets either way, buyers or sellers, and that's how they have kind of set themselves up. Let's see. Who is JD Martinez going to sign now that Soler signed with the Giants? Not as many options. He might fall into the Mets lap. Listen, I don't see I just don't see the Mets adding a bat at this point. Like, I just think it's a little too late. And I think that the way that they're going to add a bat is going to be through the trade deadline if they are competing. Soler to the Giants as well. We can talk about that a little bit in terms of the DH. He's going to the Giants. This looks like the third straight with the third straight pitcher-friendly park that Soler is going to. Yeah, we'll talk about Ben. We're going to do a full in-depth analysis on Ben Gamel. Don't worry.
I'll pull up the baseballs of page. Okay, let's pull it
out. Decent hitting peripherals, good batting ball data. I'm not going to lie. I understand why Stearns likes him, but he's not that good. Soler to the Giants. Would you have done 3 years, $42 million to Soler? I understand the desperate need. Like, keep the desperate aside. Would you have given that to Jorge Soler if you were the Mets, even though it probably wouldn't have happened?
So again, yeah, because instead of giving $10 million to Harrison Bader and $4.5 million to Joey Wendell, again, why the hell does I forget this man exists. Oh my God, boom, that's the money you could have gotten, actually added a difference maker. But no, we're caring about our fielding instead of actually hitting the ball over the goddamn fence. I didn't hate the contract. It's 3 years, which again, it's term. And he took a 3-year fake deal Wandy Peralta did. There's 3 team options or 3 mutual options, player whatever, 3 opt-outs. So I didn't hate it, again, term wise, but it, again, it wasn't a ton of money, so I would have done it, but again, I've have that trigger happy of just, hey, I can turn Mark Vientos and trade his ass for a reliever. Like, I've made that clear for about 3 years now that even if I think, can you stop? Even if Mark can be a productive major league DH, I think there's better versions and better people, better players that can fill that role. So, and if I could turn him into, let's say a fifth starter, young, controllable fifth, like AAA guy, a couple of them, I would have done it, or a reliever, or however. So, they're staying in house. So again, it was more than 1 year. So Stearns is gotta wait all that money up coming off this year. So again, I would have done it, but they're prioritizing the most boring part of baseball, and that's boring ass defense.
Okay. Well, I
Ken
think
Murphy,
that,
baby.
I love Jorge Soler. I think that I've established that he's like one of my favorite hitters in the game. I wanted them to get him 2 years ago before they got Eduardo Escobar and Mark Canha and Starling Marte. That was the guy I wanted them to go after. I mean, after the World Series performance that he had, after the run that he has, he's just made for that type of stage. And he's just an incredible hitting profile, and I don't see him slowing down at any point in the next 3 years. If you were to sign him for, would I have done it this deep into the current situation where they have talked about they want to give playing time to Mark Vientos? No, to be honest. If it was a 1-year deal, it probably would have changed my answer. I think that the situation has to be a situation where it makes sense to add a DH. Right now, I don't think it does. Like, at the current moment, I think that they've given enough reign to Mark Vientos and basically put enough belief into Mark Vientos where they've gotten this far, they might as well try it out. Like, I don't think that, just bringing in JD Martinez really helps the whole situation, because I think that if Martinez is someone that, they were to bring in, it's a little bit different with the DH, because I think that there's not really much of a player makeup there. It's just basically swinging the bat. I don't think that there's much push to a DH, like if Mark Vientos were to be slated into that. I don't think that, if he is the DH, Mark Vientos, I don't see anybody pushing him in that sense. It's just a different atmosphere with actual position players, where if they were to bring in a Gio Urshela to push Brett Beatty, if they were to bring in a Jorge Blanco, a Donovan Solano, if they were to bring in somebody like that to push some of the prospects, yes. It's just a different situation with DH, and I think that they've already committed to giving the first licks to Mark Vientos, and I think that at this point, they got to stick with that. Listen, I understand if JD Martinez in the third week is still available, the third week of spring training, he's still available, maybe give him a call. Again, I think that they should be opportunistic with this. But right now, and I think we've talked about it for a long time, the writing has been on the wall for Mark Vientos to get the first crack at the DH job. And whether you like that or not, I mean, that is how it is going to be, at least to the trade deadline. I'm okay with them doing that. You may not be okay with them doing that. I'm okay with them doing that if they establish this being a wait and see year. But the thing is that it's weird to look at it, in my opinion. It's very weird at this current moment where you're starting up spring training. You still have pieces out there that could help you, but you've already really established something that I don't know if they want to get off of. Because if you give three years, $42 million to Jorge Soler right now, instead of the Giants doing that, Mark Vientos needs to be traded immediately. Like, you have to immediately trade him. Like, he is not going to have any success with Jorge Soler as the DH there. I understand that you can move Soler to the outfield. You can, but it's just a different story as right. And personally, the same thing goes for Teoscar Hernandez when he went off the board, and the same thing goes for Jorge Soler. I think that if Starling Marte wasn't here, wasn't getting paid what he was, then they would have one of them right now as an extra bat in this lineup. But they don't. And that's how they've kind of been set up for the entire year. Anything else? Want to add anything? Mark Vientos might hit 25 homers as a DH, and I hope that he does. I am 100% hope that he does.
And
I could see the Mets signing Brandon Belt for DH. I mean, he's been linked to us. I wouldn't go that direction, but, you know.
And again, to the last comment, might, if, like, we don't know if Mark Vientos can be a full-time big league. We know Soler can hit 35 to 40 nukes a year. We know JD Martinez can do it. I get it. You get do it in New York if you want to, total nitpick, yes. But if this year does not matter, fine. Ifs, buts, and maybes are all we're banking on, then call it a maybe season. Again, it just shows that they don't care.
It is a wait and see year. So that's kind of how it is. Will Vientos hit more than 220? I hope he hits lower than that. That means he's trying to hit more home runs. You're listening. You're talking to the anti-batting average king right here. But we'll see. I mean, this is the thing about Vientos. We'll see what the I want to see what the leash is on him, though, first. I do want to see the leash because he is going to have a big spotlight on him throughout spring. He's going to have a big spotlight on him throughout the regular season. If he gets that, if he gets that role. And again, there's DJ Stewart out there who also could be a possible option. The thing is that they're not my number one choices at all for DH at all. But I don't hate the hitting profile of either of these options from the left side or the right side with Mark Vientos or DJ Stewart. I don't hate it. I think that it could definitely help. It could help you and carry you to a trade deadline if you are competitive. I think it can. If it rolls somewhat the right way. 25 homers is better than Vogelbach. Yeah. Well, what were you going to say?
We got some breaking news about one of your favorite relievers that you were so hyped on who turned to shit. Who? Jeff Brigham to the Twins.
No! When was I hyped on him? I think I liked him.
Is Gregory Santos really that disgusting? Those 99. That's actually okay. Maybe he's kind of sexy. Okay.
Oh. Jeff Brigham to the Twins. God fucking damn it.
Goddamn, broke some news.
Well, that sucks. That just puts a whole wrench into my plans today. But yeah. What do you think about Ben Gamble? Let me. What do you think, man?
Just for Ibby. He looks like a ball player. He's got beautiful long hair and a beard. Depth, fine. I mean, yeah, we saw Winker sign for the same. So, I mean, it's a lesser name than Winker, but who cares? I mean, it's just have him stash away in Syracuse. I'm fine with it. Again, it's Ben Gamble. I mean, how much more could we talk about? He shotgunned a beer with his cleats, so that was pretty hot. So, besides that, who cares? Just more depth is depth, and if do more of them. Just sign a bunch of these 38, 37-year-old just minor league deals, just to stash them and see what happens. And if there's younger guys willing to take it, do it. Like, I'm fine with it. Am I gonna? Oh my god! I made a joke that I'm pulling out Kyle Crick cards and Zach Short and found a bunch of guys Wendell and those earlier, but I'm not pulling out my Ben Gamble, hunting for Ben Gamble. So we'll see.
I would. He could be the guy who comes out of nowhere, and
the guy that just comes out of absolute,
DJ Stewart. He could be the DJ Stewart.
Oh boy,
you never know. Yeah. Mark Vientos has big power potential. Got to see what he has before they trade, and that's the thing. I think that's how they're looking at a lot of these prospects because there is a log jam, with a few of the positions. As for some of the prospects, whether you're looking at Jet Williams and Luis Angel Acuna, there is a $20 million right fielder kind of in the way of Drew Gilbert as of right now. So like I think that when you look at some of the prospects, you look at some of the young guys, they want to showcase, what they can do. And I'm okay with them doing that. It may be a little frustrating at times with, the fact that the Mets are in this big market. And I think that right now, after the damage that was done last year with all the spending that they have done in the last 2 years, this is the perfect time to do what they are doing. And whether you agree with me or not, I know Andrew is an idiot, but if you agree with that or not, it's something that they really do have to do. Like, Alyssa, I understand it. Listen, it's just talent assessment, and not to mention you have the best guy for the job to do it. So I think that right now, if the Mets, want to compete,
when do we sign Andrew Friedman?
it'll come to it.
We don't have Andrew Friedman. We don't have Peter Bendix.
Yeah.
We don't have the best. We have a mediocre guy. Calm down. Guys in one jacket. Let's calm down. Let's calm down. This guy's won anything. Just take a step back.
You know how much better these streams would be if he didn't talk?
Well, then you would just be boring nerd. Non-roster invites.
So, okay. So, what do you think about Billy Eppler?
Oh, God. I mean, I don't think he was getting a job this year anyway. But again, everyone does it. But there's a guy we can make the Mets look stupid. Let's do it. MLB doing what MLB does best. Who cares? Like every team, it's not going to stop teams from doing it because unless you're literally analyzing every player that goes on the IL and like physically examining them, you're not going to stop this. And especially with velocity being king, how fragile these freaking pitchers are. Oh, little elbow tendonitis. You can say that for every single pitcher in baseball. So you're not going to just fold out all of these, phantom ILs. A Tomas Nido one. Okay, like if you make up some like the Syndergaard, foot mouth, the monkey disease, whatever the hell that was. I was like, okay, that's a phantom IL.
The monkey disease.
So whatever the hell, foot mouth, whatever the hell. I didn't know what that was. Again, the Tomas Nido dry eyes. Like, okay, that could be sussed out. But especially when it comes to the pitching side, like especially how fragile these guys are now. Like, they could just say, elbow tendonitis, and what are you gonna just cancel major league pitchers because you're asking for the velocity? Well, so you're gonna have a bunch of pitchers injured, and I get they're gonna play get the guys up and down. What you were gonna just like hard only use your 25 guys and get back to that shit. So again, it's a way to make the Mets look stupid, and I don't think Billy Eppler was a very hot commodity on the open market for GMs. Would somebody have signed him as an advisor? Probably. But it wouldn't have been like, he's getting an assistant GM job with somebody. No, it would have been like kind of the Beltron or like the right stuff where it's like you're a special advisor to the GM or something like that. So it didn't really. Again, I wasn't. I was kind of shocked, but like, okay, he wasn't getting the job anyway. Who cares? Make the Mets look stupid. So it's not going to stop the problem. So I didn't think it was that big a deal. But again, you're not going to stop. The team's still going to do it, and unless you're just like, you got to pay. Everyone's just going to, take a physical after every injury. I don't think that's going to happen. So I didn't think it was that big a deal. But again, it's Major League Baseball. They got to make everything look stupid.
I don't think there was much targeting towards the Mets, like anybody thinks. I mean, he was. Did they get punished for it? No. I mean, he got punished.
Exactly, and then after the fact, we did right. What the hell's the baseball? The AJ Predicky's pod being like, oh yeah, Anthopoulos told me I had to make up a fake injury. But yeah, we're not going to suspend Anthopoulos for a year. Like, the Mets did it. All right, easy.
Well, again, listen. We don't know what's going to go on behind closed doors. That's literally how it is. But with Billy Eppler, it's not like, and I've said this before, it's not like it wasn't made noticeable with him. Like he made a huge emphasis on having relievers with options. There was a lot of that with the optionable relievers. You also had the dry eye syndrome, which Tomas Nido went on Twitter to say that he does have dry eye syndrome No, you just
can't see.
The Helen
Deaf,
Keller
you're
disease
blind.
or whatever. What do you? But I think that
Whatever the hell.
I think that how they handled this, maybe it was a little bit out of line, but again, he didn't do himself any favors with kind of how he treated 2023, of how openly he kind of just, talking about things that are related to roster manipulation. And I think that kind of gets a little swept under the rug where, yes, again, all GMs do this. All GMs will continue to do this. And I don't really think that there is really going to be that much of a foot drop down on here. Like him getting suspended for a year, I don't think that's going to stop anyone. But let's not act like Eppler didn't make this almost completely obvious with tons of different situations. The service time with, it's not completely related to it. But I'm just saying that the roster manipulation hints were definitely there. Let's not forget Tommy Hunter going up and down without major league options, all the relievers with the minor league options. Even you can even talk about the prospects and Mark Vientos and Ronnie Mauricio and their service time being altered and stuff. So there were some strings that he was publicly pulling. Let's be real. I mean, if he was not guilty at all, he wouldn't be seen as the face of it. The only thing that makes this really stupid is it didn't help the Mets win at all. They weren't good. They were one of the worst teams in baseball. They sucked. They were unwatchable. They were a 75-win team. That was the only thing that made it so odd as to why he was being completely targeted for it. But he made it so public of roster manipulation and like roster construction that, it just gives you another reason as to why Billy Eppler should have just signed depth in the first place so he didn't have to say this crap. But that's water under the bridge at this point. Dark horse for 2024, Stewart thought he played very well, including defense. Listen, I think that he's going to get a good look. I think that Mark Vientos is going to get a good look for DH. Again, the uncertainty with Starling Marte, the uncertainty with the health of Harrison Bader. You could see DJ Stewart play some outfield at one point just to get his bat in the lineup. Do I think that that's probably related to like putting Duda in the lineup and putting him in the outfield? Maybe, but I think that, Stewart is definitely going to have a chance to make an impact on this team. He earned that right last year after having a decent performance after the trade deadline. He earned the right to at least get a decent look at it, and they brought him back, and maybe we'll see him produce. I'm hoping that there's a situation where both him and Mark Vientos are producing. I would love to have production from everybody, because that's the only way that this team is going to succeed, if you have a lot of contributors and not just Lindor and Alonso carrying the entire load through the trenches. Okay. David Peterson was throwing. That's all I'll say on that. Third base. Talked about David Stearns said that they're definitely going to have some competition. It looked like they were leaning towards Brett Beatty, which I think that was kind of obvious throughout the entire offseason, because Brett is, whether you want to say it or not, he's more of a third baseman than Mark Vientos. It doesn't really say much. But Carlos Mendoza, I know that said that there is going to be reps at third base for Mark Vientos. There is going to be reps at first base for Mark Vientos. So maybe there is, a possibility where you see Pete DH a few times, which I'm okay with that. It's not the biggest loss of Pete on defense. Obviously, give the younger guy some more chance in the field. I'd love to see Pete Alonso DH maybe twice a week or something like that. Keep him off his feet. Let him focus on hitting, because we all know the hitting is how he's going to make his money in free agency. 2022 trade deadline was a shit show. Eppler lost all cred. I think there's been tons of instances where Eppler lost all his credibility, but the 2022 deadline was definitely underwhelming, especially the position that they were in. Again, the team you know, they definitely needed they needed an extra bat in that lineup at the time. This is water under the bridge, who cares? But at that time, they needed a bat in that lineup to hold off the Braves. Let's be real for a second, just to pretty much hold off the Braves, and they did not get it. They kind of just like to create that bat, and that just doesn't really work these days. It just, I think that if Darren Ruff wasn't as bad as he was, it probably would be looked at a little bit different.
Why do we have to say that name on a fucking random stream in February? He's dead already. Don't say that name again. Goddamn.
Well, I mean, last year at this same time, we thought that Darren Ruff was going to get a fair shot and he was going to be on the opening day roster, and then he was, yeah. All right, so I guess we'll stay on for like 10 more. 10,
we were
15
literally.
more minutes.
We're not talking. I guess we're not going to talk third base. Okay, just stop mid topic.
Oh, I was gonna shift it over to you. Give me a second. Okay. Brett Beatty, Mark Vientos. How do you want to utilize this throughout spring? Mauricio's out, of course. You got Joey Wendell. Great option there. Jose Iglesias, maybe. How would you like to see this be played out? Are you going with Beatty? Are you going with Vientos? Are you? I don't know what else you're doing, but those are pretty much your options as of right now.
I mean, hell, can we just throw a big 1-year deal at Matt Chapman? No, kidding, trolling. Either way you put it, again, I guess it is Brett's job. I mean, could you see kind of Alonso, Dom Smith, where it's like, oh, they'll have Brett start, and then late inning defensive. This is why Joey Wendell's here. You could see that. We've said it. We don't see Mark Vientos as a third baseman. They're still going to play him there. Again, it's marginally. Oh, Brett might be better defensively, but it ain't by much. But again, you had again. I'm still going to like you had Eugenio Suarez out there for Drew Smith and Tomas Nido. Like that's I don't care. Oh, play the kids or whatever. Like if you were a competitive team, how the hell did you not? Hell, not even at least a competitive would have been an extra bat for DH position. But again, besides the point, they were not in those talks. It's Brett's job all year, and then maybe you could pencil in a Ventos maybe against a lefty, or a tall lefty. Even though Brett should be just playing everyday lefty righty, see what the hell he is. Just get it over with this year. It shouldn't matter. But if you want to give Ventos a day or two at third base against a lefty, I'm fine with that. The less I don't want to see Joey Wendell taking any ABs. Like I said, he can just be Dom Smith, come in like the 8th and 9th inning, play defense. Like I don't ever need to see that man swing a bat. So, but he will because they brought him in, paid him $4 million. And remember, guys, he's marginally better than Luis Guillorme or whatever. God, that fucking night on Twitter. But yeah, again, it's Brett's job. Again, you could see some penciling in days for Vientos, but Alex Bregman's there next year. I make the joke. Bregman's a free agent next year. We'll see what the hell happens with Matt Chapman. But yeah, I'm trolling, of course. But again, it's his job. Be Alec Bohm at this point. Like, can you just hit like 17 homers, marginally get better defensively? Like, that's what I'm hoping for. But God knows what that could look like and how bad if he continues to get worse than he was last year. It's just that sinkhole of, oh, we could put Jet. Yeah, let's put a midget at third base. Or Acuna, let's put a guy who's marginally tall. Like, it's really his job unless they go get a free agent. And, like, the free agent class, yeah, there's Bregman potentially. But, like, there really isn't that option that, like, it can make sense. Like,
I think Urshela makes the most sense.
I mean, if you're but that's like, not moving. What I'm saying, like, to actually get
I'm not talking about moving the needle. I'm just talking about getting somebody in there.
I've said it.
Push Brett if you believe in Brett.
Yeah, like I'm fine with. I've been fine with Urshela. I've been fine with Evan Longoria, who's still not decided if he's coming back or not. I made this joke. I thought about this because Mr. Obviously with Stearns' connection, I made the joke. I just talking to a few friends, and I'm like, watch them sign Josh Donaldson on a minor league deal because of the defense. He was elite defensively last year. I was kidding, but I was like, what on a minor league deal in like mid-May? And like Brett's defensive is just horrible. Like watch them send Donaldson for like a minor league deal. It's not gonna happen. It should not happen. This isn't me 3 years ago. But I thought it was funny. Like, hey, Stearns paid him after the Yankees cut him, and he wanted him. he played for the playoff run. So I'm just, I just put that together. I was like, how funny would that be? I'm pissed off. He ends up being on a Met. Ends up being a Met, but nobody wants him. Like, I don't want him now. But again, if you want to bring those guys in, sure, get a Scheller or someone like that. But again, they really haven't seemed that interested in adding another bat. So unless, like, are you getting a Scheller for cheap? They brought in Joey Wendell, so that I guess that's what their plan is. Again, maybe a sprinkling of Mark Vientos once a week. Again, somebody's got to take the job out of the balls and be average. Just give me a 100 OPS or like WRC plus. Like, give me at least that, and I'll be fine. We all know defensively you ain't gonna be, Nolan Arenado. Just give me an above average offensive season, and I think I'll be fine. Depending on how much faith you look for keeping you long term, but like you gotta at least, that's like for me the benchmark for him to be here next year. He has to at least have 100 WRC plus or high, at least be an average hitter, which I even doubt he can do that.
I just need him to display power and just display an actual hitting profile that doesn't scream quadruple A. That would be nice. But your confidence level in Beatty, it's definitely different from last year. Because like at this time last year, you were ready to put him in the MVP talks. You were ready to put him in
him and Julio, man. Those are the MVP. Those are my MVP predictions last year.
And now how the turntables have turned. Someone was wrong, and they don't want to admit it. But I want to see. I just want to see. I don't know, some type of life from the guy. I don't see it. I personally don't see it. But he's gonna get spring. He's gonna get plenty of time. He's first round pick. The pedigree's still there, so we'll see what happens. But there's going to be a lot that he needs to change if he is actually going to be a successful major league player. And I've said it a lot. There's a lot of things he needs to change. If he has that same garbage ass swing that he had last year, we're going to have an issue. And he is going to continue to, but we'll see. We'll see. I'm not going to completely write him off yet, but I'm getting a little, it's time for him to prove himself. It definitely is time for him to prove himself. I think that I would love to see Mark Vientos start the game at first base. Beatty starts at third. And, halfway through the game, Mark Vientos goes to third. Brett Beatty sits out. Like, I want to see something like that where Vientos plays two positions at least every single game. I'd love to see that in March where they kind of like move him around. I'd like to see, again, listen, I don't think that he's a good third baseman. I don't think he will be a good third baseman. I think he's just built better as a first baseman. But if he wants to get those reps, he wants to get those reps. And again, it's just a better way to showcase it. You just gotta, and that's the same thing goes for all the other, prospects and everything. Like Jet Williams, you want to see him in center field. You want to see them play those. I want to see Alex Ramirez play the corner, but it seems like they're kind of set on him being in center field. Like all of these prospects, they need to, like Alvarez put him in the outfield. Nobody talks about the potential star in Alvarez. I think we talk about him a good amount.
I could be real negative, but I'm just gonna keep my mouth shut here.
But no, I think no, I mean Alvarez, we know what he is, so there's not really much of a conversation that you really need to have on Alvarez. We know that he's our starting catcher. He's going to be the starting catcher for years to come. He's the only one out of the entire prospect bag of guys, especially that big four of Alvarez, Beatty, Vientos, Mauricio, that have taken the job and ran with it. Was given the opportunity and, got the catching job, and that's his job. And his backup will be Omar Narvaez. So I think that when you look at, the Mets catching situation, I think it's pretty much filled out. I mean, I know Kevin Parada arrived today. He's but
oh boy.
Again, that's a different story down the line. But the way I look at it is there's a lot to prove with these prospects. You're not going to see much on the side of Mauricio, obviously, but Beatty, Vientos, they're going to have a big spotlight on them for different reasons. One for the DH position, one for their future with the team. There's going to be a lot to look at. This is going to be a very, very entertaining spring training. I personally think it's going to be you've never really seen that big of a conglomerate of Mets prospects be featured and, been established as guys who are going to get a good amount of leash and playing time from up top in the general manager and president of baseball operations saying that he wants to give the playing time to the young pieces. So it's definitely going to be a different look. Personally, I don't think, I'm not saying Grapefruit League championship, but it's going to be, it's going to be a different look. You're going to see a lot of young excitement from the Mets this year, specifically in spring training, which we're talking about right now. And it's all relaxing because the games don't count. So it's great. Go ahead.
All right. There's one thing that's driving me nuts to an extent that I think.
God, here we go.
It's this prospect tournament or whatever the hell this new, gimmick game is.
Yeah.
It's the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Like, I thought originally when I heard the announcement, I thought we were getting kind of a futures game weekend tournament where, like, we put all the best prospects on, like, 4 teams and they battle out. All this is just a spring training game without major leaguers. Like, that ends up being most spring training games anyway. Oh, we're going to see, Dylan Cruz take on Mike Vassell with the Mets National. Like, we see those on, like, most spring training games. Or, like, a Christian, like,
what, I think it's awesome. I don't
leave
know.
it to MLB to come up with a great idea. To come up with a great idea.
It's a farm system versus farm system.
It's a normal.
You get Elijah Moore versus
who?
Elijah Moore versus Alex Ramirez.
Elijah Green. His name's Green. That's Elijah Moore's. I don't know who the hell that is.
What am I thinking of? Whatever.
I don't know who the hell you're talking about.
Who cares? Who cares? Like you say, who cares?
But like, it was when I heard it, I thought it was like, okay, we're getting all the top prospects, like a futures game, except a futures weekend, and all it is just a normal spring training game without the major leaguers. Like, you had a good opportunity, and it just kind of like, and do the most MLB thing.
I think it's cool. Especially with right now where the Mets are kind of looking at the young guys. I think that if you get like a full playing time with these, young guys here and they get to play a full game and they get completely featured in it, I think it's good. But for you're very particular with this because
it would have been like, how cool would it have been like do an American League, like if it was division based? Every division has every team been loaded to have a tournament. It wouldn't like do it like with the NHL All-Star game. Have all the divisions play each other. That would be fun. But no, we just have normal spring training game without starters. Or like big league play. That's all it is. Like,
you get a full lineup where you get to finally plug in prospects to the lineup.
Yeah, this could have been really cool, but it just ended up being.
You have to have prospect status for this?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's pretty
so
much
Alvarez can't play, Beatty can't play.
No, it's going to be just pipelines. Yeah, whatever pipeline has.
So our starting catcher would be Parada, right?
First will probably
First base would probably be Clifford, right?
Yeah.
Second base, Jet.
Shortstop,
Acuna. Third base, is that Callan Houck?
Houck, I guess. And Aram, Gilbert.
And then Aram, Gilbert, and who else is out there? Pitching staff. I mean, the pitching staff is probably better.
Just all the Binghamton guys. Literally just the Binghamton rotation.
Yeah. That is probably like the most exciting part of it, obviously, the pitching prospects being like you get, Christian Scott in the first inning, second inning, you get Dom Hamels, third inning, you get Blade Tidwell, like stuff like that. But, I don't know. I think it'll be interesting. I think that, you kind of like have to cross your fingers to see, I hope this guy plays in spring training. I hope we get some ABs from them. But, now you get an actual game where you could see it. And then you also get another major league game afterwards, I believe. At 3, it's the prospects game. And then at 6, it's like there's a which I love spring training at night. I think it's fucking awesome. Personally, I think it's like the best. Like, a game that doesn't count. Like, I don't know. It's just Florida at night. I don't know if it's great or something like that, but whatever.
All right, I'm gonna go pile drive my dog because this is what he just did to a fucking baseball.
Nice. For those of you who want to know what's inside of a baseball,
if anyone wants to know what an inside of a baseball looks, there you go. Brought to you by the fucking Rhino.
Twine and yearn. Okay, I think we're gonna hop off here. We were out here for an hour. More streams coming out, of course, during all of spring training. We'll have obviously the podcast episodes. We have a video series coming out throughout all of spring training. So make sure to look out for that. We have tons of stuff coming, and I can't wait to put it out. I've been working like a crazy person the last few days. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, for those of you still in here, make sure you hit a like button if you have not already. Subscribe, put on the post notifications. All of us individually, those links are in the description. Tons of fun, new stuff coming out in the next month or two. And yeah, as for more Mets content, I'm going to actually redirect you guys to my guy CP. He's doing a live stream with Matt Ibanez from Till Mets Do Us Part as well. They're doing it, so I'm going to put it in the chat for you guys. Tell them that Mets Weekly sent them. Yeah, so for those of you who want Mets content, go click the link in the description right now, and go subscribe to CP while you're at it as well. I just like to, shout out some guys in the community. Other than that, let's go Mets, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace out. Any other words? Anything else?
Nah.
No? Okay.
Nah.
See you guys.